This story is true. Every detail you are about to hear is documented in archaeological records, in UNESCO reports, in the testimony of researchers and historians who have spent decades trying to understand what happened here. It happened in Kenya, on the East African coast. In the dense ancient forest near the Indian Ocean, a city was found, not a small village, not a collection of huts, a city with streets, with a palace, with mosques, with running water, with a drainage system, with houses that had multiple rooms and sophisticated architecture, a city of 2,500 people, a city that had traded with China, with India, with Venice, with Persia, with the entire known world of its time, a city that appeared in no written record anywhere, not in Portuguese documents, not in Arabic manuscripts, not in Swahili texts, not in any language of any civilization that had ever traded with it. A city that existed for 400 years, and then vanished, completely, suddenly, without explanation. The people left, every single one of them. They took their valuables. They walked out of their homes. They walked out of their palace. They walked out of their mosques. They walked away from everything they had built and never came back. The city was swallowed by the forest and forgotten for 300 years. My name is Dr. James Kirkman. I was the first archaeologist to carry out serious excavations at Gedi. When I began working here in 1948, I had a feeling that has never entirely left me. The feeling that something was watching from behind the walls, neither hostile nor friendly, just waiting for what it knew was going to happen. The name Gedi means precious in the language of the Oromo people of the region, the people who knew the ruins were there long before any outsider arrived, who kept their distance, who spoke of the place with the particular caution that people reserve for something they believe to be inhabited by forces they cannot see. The local communities called them the Old Ones, the spirits of the priests who had once lived in Gedi, who had never left, who walked the empty corridors of the palace and sat in the crumbling mosques and watched from behind the fallen walls, protective, powerful, dangerous to those who disrespected the site. There is a legend still told along the Kenyan coast that anyone who removes an artifact from Gedi will be cursed by the Old Ones, that misfortune will follow them, that the priests of Gedi take care of their city even from beyond death. Because of this belief, because of the fear of the Old Ones, because the local people stayed away and brought others no closer, the ruins were preserved, untouched, for 300 years, while the forest grew up around them and over them and through them, while the stone walls darkened with age and the carved decorations of the mosques filled with the patient infiltration of roots and vines. The city waited, as Dr. Kirkman would later say, for what it knew was going to happen. The forest that surrounds Gedi is the Arabuko Sokok, one of the last great indigenous coastal forests of East Africa. Dense, ancient, dark even in the middle of the day where the canopy is thickest. The kind of forest that feels older than human memory, that feels like it has its own awareness, its own slow patience. In this forest, 2 miles from the Indian Ocean coast, hidden by centuries of growth, lay the ruins of Gedi. They were rediscovered by outsiders in the late 19th century. A British resident of Zanzibar named Sir John Kirk came across them in 1884. He reported what he found. He described stone walls of impressive construction, archways, the foundations of large buildings, signs of a substantial settlement. Nobody did much about it for 40 years. The ruins were officially recognized as a Kenyan national monument in 1927. Restoration work began cautiously in the years that followed. In 1948, archaeologist James Kirkman arrived to carry out the first serious excavations. What he found over the following decade changed the understanding of African history permanently. Gedi was not a small trading post, not a modest settlement. Not the kind of modest village that European colonial thinking had assumed all pre-colonial African communities to be. Gedi was a city, covered 45 acres. It had two protective walls, an outer wall and an inner wall. The inner wall enclosed 18 acres of space where the elite of the city had lived. Within the inner walls were a palace, a grand mosque, several smaller mosques, stone houses of multiple rooms, streets laid out on a grid pattern, a sophisticated water system with wells and drainage channels. The water system was extraordinary. Water used in the mosque for ritual washing was not wasted. It was channeled through a system of sand and porous coral that filtered it naturally before returning it clean to the wells. This was water recycling. In a coastal African city, in the 13th century, the houses had indoor plumbing, flush toilets, private bathing areas. In the 13th century, in a city that nobody had ever heard of, that nobody had ever written about, that nobody in the known world had ever mentioned by name. The artifacts that Kirkman's team recovered from Gedi told a story of extraordinary global connection. A Ming Dynasty vase from China, dated to the 15th century, found embedded in the wall of one of the houses as decoration. Venetian glass beads from Italy, thousands of miles away, scissors from Spain, an oil lamp from India, pottery from Persia, coins from multiple civilizations across the Indian Ocean trade network. All of this in a city that appears in no record from any of those civilizations. The Chinese traded with Gedi. The Chinese kept meticulous records of their trading partners. Their records do not mention Gedi. The Portuguese arrived on the East African coast in the early 16th century. They documented every settlement they encountered, every trading post, every city of significance. They do not mention Gedi. The Arabs had been trading along the Swahili coast for centuries before the Portuguese arrived. They documented their trading partners extensively. They do not mention Gedi, a city of 2,500 people, that traded with China and India and Venice and Persia, that had running water and flush toilets and a palace and 3 mosques, that existed for 400 years, and left no trace in any written record anywhere in the world, not a single mention, not a passing reference, not even a rumor recorded somewhere that might point to its existence, as if it had chosen to be invisible, as if the forest had been keeping its secret from the very beginning. The thing that disturbs me most about Gedi is not its invisibility in the records. It is the leaving. The archaeologists who excavated Gedi found something in the houses that they did not expect. In each house there was a special room, a strong room, built into the heart of the dwelling, with thick stone walls, with a single entrance through a trapdoor above. The kind of room designed to keep valuables safe. Every single one was empty, not ransacked, not broken into, not forced open. Empty. The inhabitants had opened every strong room in every house in the city, had removed every valuable, had carried everything with them when they left. This is not how a city looks when it is attacked. When raiders come and people flee in panic, they do not stop to empty their strong rooms. They run. This is how a city looks when its people leave deliberately, calmly, with time to prepare, with time to gather their most precious things and carry them away. 2,500 people chose to leave Gedi. They chose it. They planned it. They organized it. They took what mattered and they walked away, and never came back, and left no record of where they went. Why? What could possibly cause 2,500 people to make a collective decision to abandon a city that had running water and flush toilets and trade connections to half the world? To walk away from everything they had built over 400 years, and never return? This is episode 1 of the Lost City of Gedi, what the archaeologists found when they went deeper, what the theories say about why the people left, and what the local people still believe about what remains in those ruins. That is a story for episode 2. Subscribe to Grey Archive Tales, and come back. We will be waiting.